Yes guys, how's it going? Welcome back to a new video. Happy days as Sandro Tonali is officially a Newcastle United player. That's right, as of yesterday, I did a video on this yesterday as well. Sandro Tonali was announced by the club as our new 55 million reported Italian midfield signing in the door. Done, dusted, signed, sealed, delivered. We're going to finally be happy and also breathe a small sigh of relief as well that it is done, and we can now talk about what is next. And it is being reported that Newcastle are prepared to fight for the signature of Harvey Barnes this summer window. It's reported by the Daily Mail in the last 24 hours that Newcastle want to reignite their interest in the player, and it won't be an easy one because he's in talks with a few other clubs, but it's someone Eddie Howe has clearly got his eyes on, and I want to talk a little bit about why in this video. Along with that, it's also being heavily reported that Newcastle are looking down the loans route this summer as well, which I touched a little bit on yesterday, but I thought it'd be worth talking a little bit about that in this video as well. So as I say, Sandro Tonali, officially a Newcastle United player. Happy days. We're still waiting to see him officially arrive on Tyneside. Normally what happens is you spot the player going into the training ground, you spot him going to St James's Park. He's had his wander around the big market. He's been out for food in town. Not this time around, no. Because of the fact that he was playing his under-21s with Italy. He was in Romania. He wasn't in England, and then he was set to fly over at the weekend, but then nobody spotted him, and then we were waiting to see what was going to happen. But I think Newcastle have just basically thought, you know what it is. Everybody knows about it anyway. Shall we wait any longer, or shall we just announce it? And I'm glad they have, because as I say, it's been great to talk about. It's been fun as fans to get excited about it, and we've not gone over the top or anything, have we? Of course we have. Everyone's going crazy on Twitter about how good he's going to be this window. But I mean, you know, sensibly, he's going to be a talent, and we know that he's going to add to this side. So I think everyone is excited, and as I say, excited to see what happens next. And what will happen next is that I think we will slowly but surely start to see those images of him arriving at Newcastle Airport, of him getting the tour of the training ground, of him arriving at St James's Park. And the Newcastle media staff have been, amazing, to be honest, having this since the takeover. The amount of insight and behind the scenes we've started to get. I have no doubt the moment he arrives, we will be inundated with photos and videos. I thought it could be this week, but to be honest, the rush has died off a little bit. The rush originally was get him in, get all the photos, get the announcement done. Now we've done the announcement. In fairness, he can pretty much just turn up the day before pre-season training if he wants to, unless, I guess he wants to, it's not long till pre-season training anyway. We've got Gateshead game in 10 days time. Yeah, not long at all. So the lads will be back in training before we know it, as it is. And I suppose he might want to go and pick himself a house or a flat or whatever he's planning to do. So, yes, Tonali is a Geordie. Sandro is a Geordie. The chants are coming out already on Twitter and all over the place. So it's happy days on that one. And Eddie Howe obviously spoke a little bit about him. There was a few interviews. Eddie Howe saying that it's a really experienced key player in Europe. He's played Champions League, but he also has the chance to grow with us and evolve with us, which is pretty good to hear, because obviously Tonali is a big talent to bring in, but he's not done yet. He's not done yet. He's only just started. And obviously he had a few words to say where he actually said a big thank you for the opportunity, and he wants to repay that to the fans on the pitch and feel the warmth of the fans. Well, if he's been having a look at Twitter, I'm sure he's already seen the warmth of the fans, or the warmth of the Newcastle fans anyway. I'm not sure much warmth coming from those AC Milan fans anymore, but certainly from our direction. And I'm sure you will get a big round of applause when he steps out onto that pitch. But as I say, what happens next? Well, aside from Tonali, Newcastle are back to work and back to trying to bring in a few more transfers this summer window. I think most Newcastle fans say, that 1, 2, 3 is good, but in a big season, in a Champions League, in multiple tournaments and in the Cups, it needs to be more than that. We need to have, 5 or 6. And because of that, it would appear Newcastle could well turn to the loan market to really try and help bump those numbers up. Now, the players discussed, and I did mention this in yesterday's video, so I won't go on too long about this, but if you guys let me know your thoughts down below. The two names mentioned yesterday or the day before were Calvin Phillips from Manchester City and Conor Gallagher from Chelsea. Now, Conor Gallagher is a player that we've been heavily linked with for a while, and it doesn't surprise me those links have come round again. As we get onto Harvey Barnes in a moment, Eddie Howe is not a man who's scared to go back in for players that he's had interest in previously. I think the thing with loan players is those are two talented guys who aren't getting the game time, and Newcastle could potentially offer it to them at, for free, come and play for us, we'll help you out. But the problem is Chelsea, is Man City going to want to give us players to help us in our top four race? I mean, Man City are fighting for the title. Could they see Newcastle as a potential contender for that? Maybe not this upcoming season or maybe the next few seasons, but they're going to be careful on how much they help us. And Chelsea are a side that wanted Champions League football and didn't get it, and are now going into a season where they're a direct competitor with us. I know they can put a clause in that says that Gallagher doesn't play for us when it's against them, but generally speaking, if he played a lot of games and did a good job, he would be helping. So I think that I agree with what's been written here. I agree that the loan market is something Newcastle should look at. And I think, a lot of teams, it's a good way to do it. It's a good way to bring players in. Loan everybody, get them in, give them a year's trial with us. And if we like them, we'll try and buy them. If we don't like them, we don't have to buy them. It helps bulk the numbers. Because that's the thing, when you talk about bulking the numbers, I try to stay away from that phrase because I don't really want to bulk the numbers. And Eddie Howe has actually said that he would rather bring in, a small cluster of elite players than just... You see it all the time. It's like the Gareth Bale, isn't it? Gareth Bale goes, Spurs spend 100 million on about 8 different players. Because you've bought so many players, it just doesn't work. You're better off going and buying 2 or 3 quality players. Go and use that 100 million to buy 2 50 million pound players, 2 new Gareth Bales, and put them in the side, and you'll likely do better than trying to change a whole squad. And I do agree with what Eddie Howe says in that. The trouble, however, in doing that, you aren't adding enough depth as well. I would rather we went out and bought 2 or 3 really high caliber players. I'm not overly interested in spending, because it's expensive. If you talk about a Gallagher, how much is he going to be? Chelsea going to want 30, 40 million? Look, he's a young player and he has a lot to cut. I think there's a lot to come from that guy. So if you do start talking fees, you let me know what you think he's worth down below. But to have him on a loan straight away, it's not someone who I'm going, wow. But it is someone I'm going, okay, good move, sensible move. He's come in, he's on the bench, he can play when we need him to. As soon as you start talking silly money like 50, 60 million for players who aren't automatically in your first team, like, look, Tonali is expected to walk straight in the first team. You spent the big money, but he's expected to be in the first team. If you start talking that kind of money for a player who's going to go on the bench, then it's just gone crazy. So that's why I think loan moves are a good place to be, to help, as I say, bulk the squad without going mad and spending over the odds on players that aren't walking into the first team in the first place. Harvey Barnes, now he's an interesting one. Do you think he is someone who could potentially walk straight into the first team? It's a name that has been linked with Newcastle all summer, basically because Leicester went down. We were heavily linked with Maddison. Who are the 2 players from Leicester who are realistically going to move on and keep their Premier League status? Well, I think Harvey Barnes and Maddison are those 2 players. And at the same time, Leicester are desperate to get rid of players. They actually let, I think, 4, 5, 6 players go on free, including Ayoze Perez, who I've not actually looked. I should have looked that up before I started this video. I think he's got links over back in Spain at the moment. I don't imagine Newcastle will be re-signing him. I bet he's, would he have still been here? Don't know. He didn't make the greatest move in the end, did he? But anyway, Harvey Barnes is someone that Eddie Howe has clearly been keen on over this summer window. 25-year-old player, and I do think it's a player that he's quite versatile. And he battles hard. He works his socks off, and I think that's just Eddie Howe player all over, to be honest. I think it's the same with Tonali. He's very versatile. He can play that Bruno role, but he can also go left, he can also go right. He can cover in the right back when Trippier does his overlapping runs. He does a lot. And I think Harvey Barnes, and I know there's a lot of discussion on what position Newcastle need. And I do think Eddie Howe's trying to be clever with that. And yes, Barnes primarily will go down the left, which is kind of putting questions in people's minds of if Barnes is going left, can we put Maxi on the right, or is Maxi being linked away as well? And then if you move him over, and then where's Gordon? Is Gordon not meant to be on the left as well? I think generally speaking, these guys can pretty much play on either side. I know they'll have preferred positions, but I don't think that if you went to Barnes, right, you're going to go on that side today, that he's going to, you know, take his boots off and walk home. You know, I think Eddie Howe's trying to be bringing players who can do a bit of everything and can play a bit of everywhere. And I think Barnes is a player. I think he can play in the left, he can play in the right, he could even play behind the striker if he wanted to. I think he's someone who's versatile. I think if you talk about players who will listen and work hard for you, Barnes is that guy as well. The trouble is, and the reason it's being said that Newcastle will need to fight for the player, is as I've just mentioned already, Leicester want to get rid of him, so he's already in talks with a host of other clubs. He's in talk with West Ham at the moment, which is apparently meant to be quite close, so if Newcastle do want to get their arse into this one, they're going to have to be quick. They've also been, I think it's Villa as well he's being linked with, and all of this is for a fee of around £30 million. So again, if we speak about fees and what we think players are worth, do you think Newcastle reigniting this interest in Harvey Barnes, is the player worth 30 million, and is that someone you would like to see at the club? I like him. I do like him. You know, back when we were being linked with Maddison and Barnes as a collective pair to both come in, I was for it. You know, so I think I'm still on board with it now. I think, as I've mentioned already, he's someone who, yeah, I could see him pretty much coming in straight away. I don't see Barnes as a player that we're bringing in. It's just because he's going to sit on the bench and whatever. I think he's a player that will come in and immediately add to the side. I think I would stick him in, whether it would be on the left or the right. It could be either. But it's creating backup in places that we need it with quality. And at 25 years old, he still hasn't peaked for me either. I think he still has a few years in him to get better. And we are the team offering Champions League football. So hopefully, if we do ignite even late, we could put ourselves in for quite a good shout there. So let me know your thoughts down below on Tonali. When do you think we might see him in his black and white top? Will it be the first day of training? I think it could well be. What do you think on the loan situation? Do you think it's a good move, a bad move? Should we just be concentrating on, look, what's the point of getting Eddie Howe to make these players better if we're going to send them back after their loan in a year's time? Should we be concentrating on getting a player like Barnes in, who Eddie Howe can make even better, can get him to play any position? We'll get him playing centre-back, we could do with a left-back as well, and I think we could possibly do with a centre-back as well. But that's for another video. Thank you guys for watching. Drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already. Someone's cutting the grass. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.